Stakeholders. Every UX professional goes on about the importance of cultivating good relationships with stakeholders. Why this obsession with stakeholders? I'm Ash. I work as a UX researcher, and the first thing in this video is I want to spend some time looking at why stakeholders are so important in the UX space. And then we'll look at what are the main challenges a UX researcher faces with stakeholders. And finally, the best approach to take with stakeholders and some concrete examples to go with it. Let me show you a good visual of how companies organize teams when developing software is to have these three acting circles. The developers are thinking from the technical feasibility side. Product managers are more responsible for the business opportunities, and the designers are catering for user needs. Now, if you ask, where is the user research in this illustration? Not at the center. We're on support role. Have you played or watched volleyball? In a match, you have a player who is known to be the setter, and the setter does exactly that. Sets the ball, delivers the ball in the best possible angle for the other team players to hit it and score a point. So the setter is more concerned with where the team members are than with the opponents. You see where I'm going with this? The researcher is in the same position. We're not scoring a point by ourselves, but we're setting the ball for the team. That's why there's so much emphasis on stakeholders. They are the ones making decisions and spiking the ball. Now, let's talk about challenges when working with stakeholders. We're usually working with this understanding that decisions made inside a company are rational and based on solid evidence. But are they? Daniel Kahneman, the psychologist and author of Thinking Fast and Slow, wrote in an article his thinking. I'll share a link down below. And one of the things that stood out to me was him saying the power of reasons is an illusion. People believe the reasons because they believe in the conclusion. Wow. That means that people have a really hard time changing their mind about things. In fact, Kahneman goes on to say that people simply don't change their minds about anything that matters. Imagine you're working as a researcher with a team, and the team has to decide if they go with option A or option B. Let's say they have to decide if they're going to produce a film with DC characters or Marvel characters. Kind of a crazy example here. You're supposed to share evidence that will help the decision makers go with one or the other. We could assume that the team is waiting for the evidence, but that's not really what happens. In practice, decision makers can't wait. They make assumptions. They have their own intuitions. They start to think, DC, I love that last Batman film. Or Marvel, it's been so long that I haven't seen a great X-Men film. They start to project things onto the decision that they're about to make. So it's not just a matter of coming up with good arguments. You have to develop a relationship in order for people to even consider what you're saying. By the late 1940s, a psychologist from the University of Yale, Carl Hovland, was studying films made by the US Army during the Second World War, and he was trying to uncover how effective these films were at persuading soldiers. And what did he learn? The persuasiveness of a message is strongly influenced by its source. So the personal characteristics of a communicator has an impact over the message. From there were a number of studies that showed that a person who was authoritative and respected was more persuasive, regardless of the message. More than compelling evidence or sharp logical arguments, the key is building trust. So how do you build trust? Well, I've heard leadership coaches talking about a trust equation, and I tend to stay away from some of these formulas, but this equation is quite interesting to have a look. Trust. You have to consider 4 aspects. Credibility, which is how believable you are to others, how much knowledge, how much confidence you project. Then you have reliability, and this has to do with the actions over time. Are you dependable? Will you do what you say? And do you have a consistent track record? Intimacy, which relates to others feeling comfortable and opening up about who they are. It's a level of emotional security. Then you have self-orientation, which relates to your motives and how much your motives align with the interests of stakeholders. The bigger the distance between what you want and what other people want, the bigger the effort required to gain trust. Okay, we spoke of the importance of trust and we broke trust down into these 4 components. What can we do now? Let's cover some strategies to improve trust and collaboration then. How do we build on credibility? So credibility starts with first impressions. The more confident you are, the more credible you are. And how do you get more confident? Some people have the natural swagger. In my case, it's all down to preparation. Being prepared allows me to stay calm and communicate confidence. The other thing is to try and make the process as transparent as possible. Be inviting and warm, open to collaboration. This obviously feeds into credibility. Some people say over-communicate. Don't shy away from saying what is important on the research side and even repeating yourself. Because of some of this information really takes time to sink in. Being open about the research limitations is also something that counts towards reinforcing credibility. Reliability is something that you can show with results. Obviously, something that will take time, but being proactive and helping others is another way to build on the sense of reliability. And how do you help others? Even if it's just to listen and be available to be used as a springboard. In some cases, product managers have to speak out loud and think things through, and having a conversation with them would allow them to do just that. Asking good questions reinforces your credentials. In fact, I'll share a fact finder tool that gives some suggestions on questions to ask to allow this conversation to happen, kind of rethinking first assumptions. The other side effect of reliability is you get allies, people that will support you and be there in your corner because you were there for them too. On the aspect of emotional security, there's a few things that you can do to help. You can favor one-to-ones where you can ask for the team members' feedback individually and try to open the communication there. When you ask for feedback, it's a gesture inviting transparency and honest, open communication. And it makes me think of track 2 diplomacy. So track 2 diplomacy is an unofficial interaction. Instead of you having all this done in front of an audience, track 2 diplomacy is making things happen behind closed doors, favoring one-to-ones, creating a more personal relationship. And this can help with rapport. Obviously, I'm speaking here as if all of this is a positive and healthy relationship. Sometimes you face difficulties with stakeholders. If this is of interest, let me know. I can go into more details on how to navigate these waters. For now, I think this is enough. Let me know what you think. You can leave a comment or like the video if it sparks some thoughts. And do consider subscribing if you're interested in more about UX. There are more videos on the way, and I'll see you around.